Welcome, I'm Dawn Hayes. I'm excited to practice with you today. For today's practice, you'll need a blanket and some sort of cushion, and we'll start seated. And you'll also find it helpful to have a yoga block. If you have two, that could be useful, but we will definitely use one or something like it. We'll start seated. So as you're ready, start to settle in and adjust your cushion to bring a little height under your hips. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes. Give yourself a few moments to scan. Notice what it feels like to connect your legs and your sit bones to the earth and to your support. And at the same time, from that support, can you extend and lift your torso up towards the ceiling? Imagining almost like a ladder with an extender on the top, it slowly reaches higher, creating a little bit more height, a little bit more length. And even as your spine and your internal body reaches higher, there's still that connection to the earth. And can you bring a little bit of ease and softness to the lift? And when you're ready, you can place one hand on your heart area and one hand on your diaphragm area in the front. And for a few cycles of breath, observe the pace of your breath. And notice if one hand is moving a little more than the other. When I feel a lot of stress or anxiety in my life, I tend to notice that my belly and my diaphragm can feel kind of stuck or tight. And so in our practice today, we'll explore some movements that are gonna squeeze the diaphragm a little bit and then expand it in complementary fashion. And see if that impacts the ability to take a bigger, fuller breath. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, place your left hand on the floor next to you, and sweep your right arm up and overhead. So you're side bending to the left. Bend your left elbow a little as you reach. Lift up on inhale, exhale to the other side, hand to the floor, bend the elbow, push down as you reach up and over. And do this a few times. So you're observing this side to side movement. I encourage you to pretend that you're a piece of kelp in the Monterey Bay or seaweed in the ocean somewhere. And allow this to be a little bit of a fluid pattern, as if your breath is the tide or the waves moving the kelp. As you go side to side here, noticing how it feels to move into your ribs. One side will contract and the other side will widen. And the next time you're on the left side, pause there for a couple seconds. As you push your hand into the floor, experiment with the reach of the top arm. If there's any pain in shoulder, you can bring your hand to your hip as an alternative. When you're ready, inhale back to center and go over to the other side. Right hand to the floor, bend your elbow, push down into the hand that's on the earth, and see if that helps you contract that lower side a little bit. So there's an engagement there. And the top arm reaches up overhead to a certain extent. And when you're ready, come back to center and pause for a couple seconds, bringing your attention to the side rib area. You could even bring your hands there if that's helpful and comfortable to kind of hold the side rib area. And as you observe the cycles of your breath, can you feel how much movement there is into your hands in the sides and into that side rib basket area? When you're ready, you can release the hands. Now, this time as you lean up and over to the side, instead of coming across the top to go to the other side, reach your right hand forward, walk your hands across. You're moving into a little bit of a forward fold and go to the other side, sweeping arm overhead, doing the side bend shape. Now reverse that. Left hand walks across the front. Your hands creep to the other side as you do a little fold, a little twist, side bend from that front plane. And try that a couple times. So you're walking your hands across from side to side, moving at your own pace. The hands will support this journey as you push into the earth, so you decide how much you push. And you could sweep where your hands are not really touching the floor, more draping across, which will be a little bit more demanding for your torso because there's less support from your arm bones, but might feel good in a more engaged or dynamic way. As you do that 1 or 2 more times, experiment with the pace. You can go as slow or linger anywhere you want to linger. The next time you're in the center, pause there, walk and hold a couple breaths in the center. You could walk your hands forward a little bit if that's helpful, tucking your chin to your chest, noticing what you feel through your back body. Walk your hands back in towards you and come on up to seated. Now, I'm going to move into something else, but you could potentially switch the cross of your legs and repeat those actions or do a little journey with a different cross. But we're going to move on for today. Slide your blanket off to the side and set yourself up into the table position, the hands and knees pose. And with your toes tucked under, exhale, tuck your chin to your chest, round your back body up towards the ceiling. Inhale, move your heart through your arms, look a bit up towards the sky. And do this a couple times, feeling the wave-like pattern of your breath. And notice if there's any areas that feel a little tender or want to get a little squiggly. At any time, you can start to take this into a little bit more of an organic movement. So you start to go side to side as you go up and down. I kind of think of this as like the front-loading washing machines where you can see the clothes tumbling around in a circle. So if you want to feel into that pattern, you can do one direction and then the other. If it feels good, you can also send your hips back towards your heels some, or you're starting to move a little away from the wrists and then back towards them. And feel free to explore as it's feeling good to you. And then when you're ready, go ahead and sit your hips back towards your heels with the toes tucked under. So you're really gripping your big toes into the floor, almost like you're trying to claw the floor with your toes. And notice what you feel in the soles of your feet and your calves as you grip with your toes. Walk your hands towards your knees if that's comfortable to you. One option here is to bring a block under your knees so you have a little lift. If there's a lot of intensity in the toes, that's a really good choice, the block under your knees. If it's a little bit more challenging for you to have the buttocks come towards your heels, then the block between your buttocks and your heels could be a helpful choice here. Oftentimes this is called broken toe pose. I personally like to call it happy feet pose, which it's not how they feel when they're in it. So if you're wondering why I came up with that name, it's generally how they respond when you come out. When you're ready, interlace your fingers, press your palms away from you and start to reach your arms up towards the ceiling. And notice how the orientation of your arms starts to lift the side ribs a little bit and potentially also lift your front ribs and your sternum. As you reach up with the arms in this way, side bend a little one direction, move back to center, side bend the other direction. Return to center, hands to the floor. With your hands on the earth, take your right hand and flip it so the palm is up towards the ceiling and your right fingers are turned to your left hand. Let's do this. You can see a little better that way. Then try to curl your fingers in like you're making a fist. Ooh, you feel that in the outer forearm? And then do the other side. So right palm comes to the floor, back of left hand on the floor as your left fingers point towards your right hand. Curl your fingers like you're trying to make a fist with your left hand. You'll feel that in the back of the hand and the forearm. When you're ready, hand back to the earth, and let's lift off into downward facing dog. Hips towards the heels in that happy feet-like position. Push into the earth as you gradually open the backs of your knees. As you push into your feet, bend one knee, press opposite heel down, switching sides. Do this a couple times, like you're walking your dog here. When you're ready, walk your feet to meet your hands. Come to the top of your mat. Feet about hip distance apart. Push into your feet, reach for the sky. Use your legs to come upward. And exhale, arms by your sides. Take a moment to check in. Notice what you feel. How is it to stand on your feet? In some ways, your heels are like your sitting bones. Both are designed to bring little anchors and to send roots down for your seated and your standing postures. When you're ready, inhale, reach your arms up, extend for the ceiling. Exhale, dive forward as if you're folding towards your feet, towards the earth. Inhale, lift your torso halfway, slide your hands towards your knees and extend the front of your spine. Exhale, step back to downward facing dog. From your down dog, inhale into plank position, pushing the floor away. Exhale, downward facing dog. Do this a few times, using your inhale to ride your breath forward like a plank, moving into that strong shape, and your exhale, ride your breath back into the downward facing dog. Feeling the pull forward and backward, almost like seaweed would get pulled around in the surf. Gets pulled up towards the shore and then pulled back out into the ocean. The next time you're in the plank, pause there. You can bring your knees to the floor and slow motion chaturanga, lower yourself to the earth. Inhale, cobra, and exhale back to downward facing dog. Let's repeat that again. Inhale forward into plank. You can bring your knees to the floor as you lower slow motion chaturanga. Inhale, cobra. You can do shalabhasana if you prefer. And exhale back to downward facing dog. From your down dog, inhale, lift heels, look forward. Exhale, walk or hop your feet to meet your hands. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold, chin to chest. Push through your feet. Inhale, reach for the sky. Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, arms by your sides. Samastitihi. Inhale, chair pose. Bend your knees, reach your arms up. Exhale, return to standing. Try that a couple times. Inhale into the chair. Exhale, return to standing. Arms return to your sides. Is it possible for your breath to begin a little bit before your movement does? With a breath beginning a tiny bit before your movement, there'll be a moment where you hover in the chair, and there'll be a moment where you hover in the mountain pose. Next time you're in the chair, Hover there, bring your arms wherever it works best for you today. Maybe they want to be straight out to the side like wings or like a cactus. Hands to hips is another option. Lean a little into your right leg and feel the weight shift to that side. Lean to the left leg and switch. Try that a couple times side to side. And then when you're ready, come back to center, fold forward. Pause there for a moment in your forward fold. Notice, is it helpful for you to bend your knees? And feel free to do that. Would it be possible to push more into your right foot and start to straighten your left leg a little bit? So the right knee stays a tiny bit bent, left leg straightens. Then switch sides. Bend your left knee, shift weight to left leg, and straighten right leg a little bit. Do that one more time on each side. Right knee bends, lean weight into your right leg, straighten your left leg. Left knee bends, lean weight into the left leg, straighten the right. Both knees bend, pause for a moment. Now, bend your right knee, straighten your left leg. Take more weight into the right foot initially. Now, keeping the right knee bent, can you shift your weight into the straight leg, almost like it would be possible to lift your right heel a tiny bit off the floor? You could lift your right heel if you want, so that will definitely shift more weight into the left leg. Now, switch sides. Bend both knees. Shift your weight into the left leg, so the left knee is bent. Straighten your right leg. Pause there for a moment. Would it be possible to shift your weight into the right leg and start to lift your left heel a little bit off the floor? So the left knee stays bent. The right leg gets straight and powerful as you push down through the heel. Bend both knees, come back to center. Inhale, lift your torso halfway. Push firmly into the legs with them straight like you did just a moment ago, but now both are straight, torso's lifted. Exhale, downward facing dog. Remember that feeling of pushing into the heels to straighten the leg? Inhale, come into plank pose and do that. Push into your heels as if they were pushing into a wall. Grip your toes into the floor like you're trying to claw your mat, just as you did in that happy feet pose earlier, and really feel a sense of strength from your legs. Now from here, bring your knees to the floor, point your toes and bring the big toes to touch. Child's pose. So you decide how wide apart your knees go. As you shift your hips back, curl your spine up so you're lifting into a little bit of a rounded shape and lift tall. Then from here, walk your hands behind you like you're going to lean back a little bit. And as you have your tippy fingers on the floor, bend your elbows, lift your chest like you were going to do a little bit of a back bend here. If it's comfortable on your knees, you can stay here. If you need a little height under your hands, your blocks could be really helpful. As you lift the chest, what do you notice about the front of the diaphragm? And how can you explore that in relationship to the back of the diaphragm here? When you're ready, walk your hands forward again. Curl into that child's pose shape, tucking chin to chest. What do you notice about the front of the diaphragm here? And the back of the diaphragm here? Let's do that one more time. So with your chin into your chest, can you roll up the spine one vertebrae at a time? It's lifting in a kind of a rolled or tucked position. When you've extended it up, like we did seated at the beginning, start to lean back into your tippy fingers, Lift the chest with elbows bent a little bit. You're going to get into that shoulder area, sternum, chest area as well. Think of this as a little bit of a back bend, having head wherever it's comfortable for you. Slowly transition your way forward and back to downward facing dog. Toes tuck under, hands to the earth. Check in with how your feet are feeling. Maybe they're like, oh my God, that was way too long to do that. What was she thinking? When you're ready, lift your heels so they're both really high up towards the sky, and walk your left foot to the midline of your mat, side to side. Inhale, take your right leg up towards the ceiling. Make a couple circles with your right foot and ankle. On your exhale, bend your right knee and step your foot between your hands. Now have your feet about hip distance apart, and you could find it helpful to bring your blanket underneath your knee. So bring your left knee to the floor and come into the 90-90 position with your legs. I think of this as like if you were going to propose to somebody, it's like you're in The Bachelor. So we call this the bachelor lunge. Now take your right hand to your right hip and side bend to the right. I'll turn to the side. As you side bend to the right, right ribs shorten, left ribs widen. Give that a couple moments as you scissor your legs together. Now from this position here, scissor legs together, start to twist your left ribs towards your right thigh and hook your elbow over your thigh. Bring your palms together and pause and turn there. Optional, keep your left knee down, or if you prefer, tuck your back toes under, lift the back knee. I personally find that the balance gets a little easier when my knee is down, but I can twist, like the twist feels like it gets a little bit more into the sticky spots when my knee is down. As you check in, notice what it's like here. Then release back to the downward facing dog, hands to floor, stepping back. We'll do the other side. Walk your right foot to the midline of your mat short ways, so across from left to right, side to side. Then lift your left leg up towards the sky. You can make some circles with your left foot and ankle. When you're ready, step your left foot into the lunge position, right knee to blanket. Set up so you're in that 90-90 position with the legs and the lunge. Right arm by your ear and side bend to the left. Bringing attention to the shortening on the left side of your ribs and diaphragm, and the widening on the right side of your ribs and diaphragm. And notice, what's it like to create a little squeeze on one side? On your next exhale, start to turn your right ribs towards your left knee as you're in the side bend, and hook your elbow to your thigh. So you're creating a lot of compression here in the front of the diaphragm. You could keep your back knee on the earth if you prefer and really focus on the twisting. Or if you like, you can lift your back knee off the floor and have the toes push down. And I oftentimes find that makes it a little easier to turn the spine, but my balance gets a little bit more wobbly. So as you turn here, notice, what's it like to squeeze front ribs, front diaphragm area? Can you broaden the back body as you turn? And on your exhale, back to downward facing dog. From your down dog, you can move the blanket off to the side first and inhale into plank. Lower onto your belly, however that works best for you. Chaturanga with knees down or legs straight. Inhale into a back bend of your choice. Could be the locust, the cobra, the shalabhasana. Or the up dog. And then back to downward facing dog. Pause in your down dog. Lift heels, look forward, and step or hop your feet to meet your hands. Inhale, lift halfway, lengthen. Exhale, bend your knees and fold chin to chest. Inhale, reach for the sky. Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, arms by your sides. Samastitihi. Inhale, chair pose. Bend your knees, reach your arms up. Exhale, fold forward, hinging from your hips towards the earth. Inhale, lift halfway, slide your hands towards your knees as you push firmly into legs. Exhale, downward facing dog. Inhale, reach your right leg up towards the ceiling. If you'd like, you can make a couple circles with your right foot and ankle. Bend your knee and make a couple circles with your right thigh bone, as if you're tracing those circles using your knee. When you're ready, step your right foot forward for warrior two. Ground your back heel, lift your torso, extend your arms and torso up. Now in your warrior two, keep the legs steady and start to transition into the side angle, floating torso forward over your front leg. Return to warrior two as you exhale. Inhale, reverse warrior. Lean backward in space. And do this a couple times, feeling into your side body and the way you're expanding and contracting in your side body. And I think contraction sometimes gets a bad name. So if you don't like the word contraction, you can use the word engagement. So you engage on one side and expand on the other side. And notice how the relationship of engagement and expansion allows each one to be more full and complete. And if you had one without the other, it just wouldn't be possible. It wouldn't work. Kind of like yin and yang. The next time you're in the side angle, pause there. Take your elbow to your thigh. Take your top hand to your hip. As you take your top hand to your hip, look to the floor. From here, I'd like to come into the triangle pose. So if you want to block for your bottom hand, feel free to grab that now. Push into your front foot and slowly straighten your front leg and pause. It could be helpful to repeat that a couple times. Rebend your front knee, push into the heel, the ball of the foot, straighten the right leg. As you do that a couple times, you can imagine you're in a vat of Jell-O, and the Jell-O is making it really hard to straighten your leg. It's kind of wobbly. It pushes up against your leg. The next time the leg is straight, stay there. Reach your top arm up. Let's actually keep it by your hip. So turn your palm up towards the sky with your left hand. Have it down by your hip. Now sweep it parallel to the floor. So now it's in front of your shoulder. As it hits that point, the palm turns towards the earth and your arm sweeps by your ear, which is the arm position of side angle in your triangle position. And can you push down through your back heel as you reach long through the top arm? Exhale, bend your front knee and return to downward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, you can move through a vinyasa, which for me, a vinyasa is any combination of stillness and movement that brings you to your center, that helps you connect and assimilate the movements and what you're feeling. So right now, I'm going to do the cat-cow a few times. And in the cat-cow, I'm noticing the expansion and contraction of diaphragm in front body and back body. When you're ready, we'll meet in downward facing dog and do the second side. Inhale, left leg reaches for the sky. You can make some circles with your foot and ankle. Bend the knee, make some circles with your thigh, as if there was like a pen on your knee and you were drawing circles on the wall. When you're ready, step your left foot to your hands, lift into warrior two. From the warrior two, lean forward on inhale into side angle. Exhale, warrior two. Inhale, reverse warrior. Exhale, warrior two. As you move this way a few times, continue to invite awareness of diaphragm, of breath. These movements will really impact the sides of your diaphragm, where they connect to your ribs on the sides. And is there more awareness of the contraction or of the expansion? Another way to ask that could be, do you feel more sensation when your ribs are expanding or when they're contracting? The next time you're in the side angle, rest your forearm on your thigh, take your top hand to your hip. You can track down your block. From the side angle position, bend your front knee, come into triangle with top hand on hip. And repeat that a couple times. Bend your knee. Pretend you're in that big vat of Jell-O and try to straighten your leg against its squishy resistance. But it's interesting because the resistance of Jell-O is kind of firm at the same time as it is squishy. So notice what it feels like to push into that feeling. When you're ready, keep your front legs straight. Take your right hand, which is on your hip, and flip the palm up towards the ceiling. Now, sweep the arm parallel to the floor. When the arm is in front of your shoulder, switch the palm so it's facing the floor, and continue to sweep the arm towards your ear as you reach long. Push your front or your back heel, the right heel, down into the floor, and feel the reach of your top arm like they're playing tug of war with one another. And notice, is there more sensation where there's contraction or where there's expansion, particularly through the diaphragm, but anywhere else you might notice it. Exhale, bend your front knee, downward facing dog. Move through that vinyasa pattern again, noticing whatever it is for you, whatever movements you do, exploring the expansion and the contraction. And how does bringing attention to the musculature, to the sensation, also help to bring attention to your breath patterns? When you're ready, come back to the downward facing dog. Inhale, lift heels, look forward. Exhale, step or hop feet to meet hands. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold. Push through the feet. Inhale, reach for the sky. Exhale, arms by your sides. Take your hands to your hips with your feet nearing one another on the mat, so they're getting close together. Bend your knees, shift the weight into the right foot, and step the left foot back into a lunge. Now, as you come into the lunge, you're going to bend your back knee a little bit. Scoop your belly as if you're trying to widen the back and shorten or contract the front, and bring your hands to your front thigh. As the hands come onto the front thigh, push down with the hands and pretend you're trying to do the cat tilt, which is that like a Halloween cat, you're trying to arc your spine up towards the sky. Now, as you do that, could you sink a little deeper into your front leg? Would that be okay for you today? Can you keep that sense of the navel, the belly drawing up towards the spine? So you're contracting the front and still breathe. Would it be possible for you to reach your arms out to the side like wings, but stay really low here and keep that sense of from the front belly? Optional, you can hover a little bit by twisting one arm down, the other arm up, and go to the other side, noticing how this impacts the center as well as the legs. And when you're ready, hands wherever they need to be to step your back foot forward and stand tall. Whew. So we'll do that again if that works for you. If not, please do something else that's a better fit. Feet near one another so the big toes touch. Bend your knees into the chair pose. Shift weight into your left foot. Step right foot back into high lunge. Feet wide apart for balance. Take your hands to your front thigh. Push down as if you're trying to lift your ribs up towards the ceiling, your front ribs up towards the ceiling, creating like the cat tilt. This could be a good place to stay, where you are supporting yourself and you're using the hands to create this movement. Tuck your chin towards your chest, look towards your navel, almost like you're trying to bring your pubic bone and your head a little closer together. If it feels appropriate for you, reach your arms out to the sides or stay as you are. If that's working okay, you can start to twist a little bit one direction, twist a little the other direction to feel how that impacts your standing leg, the front leg, and the core movements. When you're ready, hands wherever it's helpful for you to have them, step your back foot forward. Whew. Big breath here. Inhale, sweep your arms up, reach for the sky. Exhale, hinge and fold forward, Uttanasana. Inhale, lift halfway, lengthen forward. Exhale, step back to downward facing dog. Inhale into plank. Pause and push into the earth. Can you lift your front sternum and ribs up towards the ceiling like you did in the lunge while you're in this plank position? When you're ready, knees to the floor. For this next setup, you'll find it helpful to have a little lift. So grab your blanket and fold it up so that you have about this big, maybe a little bit, could be a little bit more narrow or a little wider depending. And then you're gonna bring it so it's under your thighs and your pubic bone will be on the blanket, but your belly will be on the sticky mat. So we're gonna do a little bit of a lift here. I gotta move my mic here off to the side before I do this. So you're gonna come onto your blanket where your pubic bone and your thighs are on the blanket, but your belly tips off the edge. And what that's gonna do is gonna bring your diaphragm on into contact with the floor a little bit here. Then when you're ready, you can keep your head down, maybe resting it on your hands to start. Inhale, float your legs off the floor. And feel how that tips your body a little bit more towards your diaphragm, towards your ribs. And exhale, lower the legs down. Repeat that a few times. Inhale, lift your legs up. Exhale, lower your legs down. And as you repeat that a couple more times, notice in your back body, particularly in the back ribs where your diaphragm meets them, can you feel the way that's contracting a bit to lift your legs? The next time you come down, pause there for a couple seconds. How does it feel to relax a bit here? Then when you're ready on the next one, how would it feel for you to lift both your chest and your legs? So you can choose to keep your forearms down as I'm showing, or you can add the lift of your forearms. Exhale, lower back to the earth. Repeat that at your own pace. Inhaling, lift up. Exhale, lower down. Inhale, lift up. Exhale, lower down. As you do one more like that, feel into the expansion and the contraction. And then pause for a couple seconds. Now I want to change the breath pattern. And instead of inhaling to lift up, can you exhale to lift into the back bend? It's, if you do a lot of yoga, it's going to be super confusing. So when you're ready, take a breath for nothing. Take a full inhalation, let yourself pause. Exhale, lift torso and legs. Inhale, lower back to the earth. Exhale, lift torso and legs. Inhale, return to the earth. Keep going. Exhale, lift torso and legs. Inhale, return to the earth. Then next time you come down, pause there, take a couple seconds. Take hands under the shoulders, press and lift into table. Do a few rounds of the cat-cow, where you tuck chin to chest, round the back body. And inhale, do the little back bend shape, looking up. Continue to explore this wave-like movement or linger in the cat tilt, feeling into what that's like for your body. When you're ready, go ahead and set the blanket off to the side, tuck your toes under, and walk back towards the happy feet pose. And as you come into the happy feet pose, can you shift your heels to the floor and lift your knees up, coming into malasana? Kind of a squatting position here. With your hands together, check in for a moment. Now, remembering the curling down and in we did earlier, tuck your chin to your chest, pretend like you're a turtle curling into your shell, and draw your head and your shoulders down in towards your body. You can reach your arms forward if that feels good. It can also feel good to hook your hands behind your heels, almost like you're trying to tuck your arms into your shell as well, like a tortoise bringing its legs in. And as you find yourself here, can you widen the back diaphragm where you were just squeezing in as you were in the Shalabhasana? And can you squeeze or contract the front diaphragm? When you're ready, lift yourself up here. Now, if your knees and hips and your feet and ankles and all the other stuff involved give you permission, walk yourself forward in the squatting position. If they don't, please skip that and come forward to the top of your mat, however it works for you. Take a seat on the earth. Have your feet a little in front of you. Now, this will be helpful if you have 2 blocks. So as you grab your 2 blocks, you're going to have just the front knuckle over the edge of your block, and you're going to have the blocks kind of even with one another, and your front knuckle will grip around the front edge of the block. Now, the knuckle is what pulls the block, so it's not your elbows pulling the block. If you want to watch first, you can. You're going to really scoop your tailbone towards your knees and create as much of a rounded shape with your torso as you can, which starts to engage the front body. It's like you're trying to bring your pubic bone towards your ribs a bit. Now, when you put your hands on the blocks, as you push down on the blocks, you're going to feel your abdominal muscles go like this really strong, stabilizing action. So that's what the blocks are for. They're to push down on and help you engage your core, that front abdominal basket part of the ribs. And then as you roll to the floor, you keep pushing down into your blocks, and as much as possible, try to go 1 vertebrae at a time. And then you might get to a spot where you reverse and come up a little bit, and you roll back down. So whenever you're ready, you can begin pushing your hands down into the blocks, or you can kind of pull with your hands as another way to do it, to try to create that sense of abdominal engagement. And notice how there will probably be some areas of your spine that want to go in a big chunk. And is it possible for you to make those big chunks slightly smaller? It's hard to do while I'm talking, by the way. Eventually, bring yourself all the way to the earth and pause and check in. With your knees bent or legs straight, give yourself a moment just to notice what it feels like for your breath to move here. And where do you feel your breath move most freely? Can you feel it in your belly? Can you feel your breath move in the sternum? Can you feel your breath move in your side ribs and by your armpits? Can you feel your breath move into your back where it's touching the floor by your low ribs and by your shoulder blades? Slowly reach your arms out to the sides so the palms are turned up. Actually, you can turn the palms down. With your knees bent, lift your knees up towards your belly, but keep your hands and arms out to the sides. Optional, take your block and bring it between your knees and squeeze your block with your knees. With the arms out to the sides, twist both knees towards your right elbow. In that general direction. You don't have to go all the way to the elbow. Keep squeezing the knees together. Turn back to center. Squeeze the knees, the block. Turn both knees towards your left elbow in that general direction. Return to the center and do this a few times. Feeling into the contraction in your rib basket and abdominal area that keeps your knees from falling over to the side. And as you go side to side here, can you experiment with bringing the feet a little away from your buttocks? So it's more of a 90-degree angle behind the legs. And as you open your feet up, the wider you go in the space between your sit bones and your heels, the more your torso has to work to keep your legs from falling over. And so you decide how far out the legs start to extend. They might be mostly straight or they might be mostly bent or somewhere in between. Now find a place where you could go to one side and hold, which probably means you shorten the distance between your heels and your sit bones, and then pause and hover for a few breaths. Keep squeezing your knees, your block between your knees. Keep your legs hovering off the floor and notice where you feel contraction and notice where you feel expansion. Return to the center. Go to the other side. Have your knees an appropriate distance, your heels an appropriate distance from your sit bones where you can hover with control but also challenge. And as you find that sense of contraction, did one side feel a little easier than the other? And what's it like to really squeeze the knees together? How does that help? How does that make it harder? Come back to center with the block between the knees. Set your feet to the floor. Now take the block so it's the middle width distance between your knees, most likely. And then as you squeeze the block like that, push your feet into the floor. Bring your arms over to head, kind of a diamond shape, or however they can rest on the earth. And as you push your feet into the floor, can you hover your buttocks off the floor so your buttocks is still touching the floor, but you're not sitting on it? And now can you shift both hips to the right with the right and left buttock making exactly equal hovering contact with the floor? Shift weight into your left foot, shift hips to the left. Can you do that with both right butt cheek and left butt cheek making exactly equal contact with the floor? And try that side to side a few times. As you push into one foot really slowly, even out the contact between one butt cheek and the earth and the other butt cheek in the earth. And notice how the tendency is for one to kind of tip or lift, and it'll take great focus and attention to keep it in contact with the earth without resting on the earth, and to have that contact remain consistent between left and right. When you're Ready, come back to center, push into your feet and lift your hips up. You can keep your arms where they are or bring them anywhere else that it gives you comfort, that it gives you support, and keep squeezing the block between your legs. As you squeeze the block between your legs, notice the connection from your inner big toes and ankles to your inner knees, from your inner knees to your pubic bone and inner thighs, from your inner thighs to the inner hip bones deep underneath the navel, and from the area deep underneath the navel into your rib basket and diaphragm. Slowly roll back to the earth. Set your block off to the side. Take your feet as wide or wider than your sticky mat and do a few rounds of the windshield wipers. And as you go back and forth here, checking in with what that feels like for you. If there's any movement you want to add to this, perhaps by turning your head, you can do that. Or spinning your arms in some way, you can do that. Next time your knees are in the center, walk your feet so the inner knees and inner feet are almost touching, and do the windshield wipers with your legs close together a few times. Noticing how that's quite different than with the legs wide apart. So we explored today in the torso the side bending movement to connect to the sides of the diaphragm, the forward bending movement to connect to the front and back of the diaphragm, the back bending movement to also connect to the front and the back of the diaphragm, and now the twisting, which brings in the sides, the front, and the back all together. When you're ready, come back to neutral with your feet about hip distance apart. Push your feet into the floor and imagine you're trying to pull your feet towards your hips. Now push your feet into the floor and try to push your feet away from your hips. And do this a few times. The push and pull of your feet will create a wave-like ripple with your torso. If you're familiar with a spinal undulation 1 that I teach often, that's what you're doing from this movement of pushing and pulling your feet. Feel free to linger or exaggerate or make a little softer the movement pattern as it feels good to you. As you finish the one you're on, or find its natural completion, if you want to do a few more, that's fine too. Set yourself up for legs up the wall. And as you set yourself up for legs up the wall, add a little bit of height under your hips. If you don't have a wall that you can put your legs on, placing your legs on a chair would be a wonderful alternative to going legs up the wall. So you would place your calves on the seat of the chair if you're going to do the chair. That blanket height that we used under the belly earlier for the Shalabhasana would be great for this because it's kind of narrow, and you take the blanket maybe an inch or two away from the wall and settle yourself so that your legs come up the wall or the chair, and the back of your hips and your pelvis is supported on that small blanket height. And as you bring the legs up towards the ceiling, You can decide if you'd like them close together or farther apart. If you have space, taking the legs wide might be a nice option, or even the soles of the feet together with the knees wide. You could go that direction as well. As you rest in the Shavasana, invite your attention and your awareness to be present but soft. Allowing your breath to be a part of your awareness and your attention. Gently place your hands onto your torso. Observe the movement of your breath. Does it feel freer or softer? Or perhaps just more in the forefront of your attention rather than in the background? Eventually, make your way up to seated, sliding your knees down, rolling to one side. Use your arm bones to push yourself up, as if you didn't have any muscles. It was all bone strength that lifted you. Sit on the earth anywhere it feels comfortable, with your palms together in front of your heart. Set an intention to explore your breath as you move throughout your day. To notice when it's feeling restricted or caught in some way. And to remember that movement, even simple movement, can help you free your breath. So perhaps doing the cat-cow or twisting a few times in your chair at your desk. Something that helps to bring a physical contraction and expansion to your torso. And sometimes that engagement and release can help you to find a little bit more ease in your breath. And when there's more ease in the breath, we oftentimes find more ease mentally and emotionally, or at least a little bit more space to be with the discomfort we may be experiencing. I thank you for sharing your practice with us today. I invite you to make a little bow forward, and in that bow, honor yourself, your dedication, your discipline, but also honoring each other, the way we show up together to share in this practice. And may these actions that we bring together, may they be in service to everyone, both in our lives and in this world. Thank you so much. Such a pleasure to be here with you today.